I am live. Welcome, everyone. Let me know if you can or can't hear me. Thank you for doing this last minute live stream. I just wanted to basically go through a few things here. First of all, Mel, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cats. I have to, just in case if your wife or husband are listening on the background, they're like, what are you listening to right now? A few business, I guess. Remember, I used to be a 19.5K follower account over on X, before my account got hacked into, and before I started having these like random posts, like these scam posts that from an app that had like read and write permissions on my X account. And apparently, it's a pretty widespread thing now. For some reason, it's not just me, but there are a lot of people on X that have also been recently affected too. But I saw an app I couldn't really revoke, so I ended up just like basically deactivating an account, start a new one. And right now I have over 5,000 followers following me back. So thank you so much for you guys who decide to follow me back. Over yesterday, I think our friend Amit, who's a big Palantir bull, he's probably like the leader of the whole entire Palantir retail investment community. His account also have gotten hacked into, and he also had some posts that are being made. Somebody was trying to get him. So be careful when you're on X. They just don't have that safety monitoring there, so be a little bit more careful with that. Originally, I was going to have a live stream on X with A, who's my good friend. We've actually I'm a great supporter of his. He's got a very charming personality. I'm going to see whether or not I can do like a little bit of a live stream on X maybe with him next weekend. But we'll see when we can make it happen. This morning, we have completed a live stream simultaneously over on X and on YouTube. And this was done over at the Great Matt Speed's channel on at TGM Trading. And this was also simultaneously available live on his channel or on his X profile as well. I can't really find it right now. But anyway, if you go to his thing, you would see it. And I think whenever I saw that he was live streaming, I think there was like about 4,000 views or something like that. So thank you all for tuning in for that. We talked a little bit about like macroeconomics. We talked about everything. I also just did a reaction video that I just posted on a Tom Lee's interview. We talked about the FOMC, talked about macroeconomics, talked about all kinds of stuff. So you want to like hear my thoughts about macro? I can try to answer some questions here. Hey, Logans, welcome. Yeah, I'm gonna try to answer some questions here if I can. But there are a lot of resources, a lot of things that have been put out there. So in case you're interested, there are a bunch of content that has been created this weekend. And when we talk about content creation, we're just mostly having fun. So the first question: what do you think about USD JPY going under 140 when the Fed cuts 50 basis point next week? I'm gonna say this one thing here. It depends. Like things don't always work out how you think it's gonna work out. I can't do that. I think it's USD JPY. I don't think I need the slash here. Things don't always work out the way that you think it's gonna work out. I've been calling like the Japanese yen plummeting. Well, not plummeting, actually rising, because USD is actually, this is a USD over Japanese yen chart. So I'm actually calling that the USD is going to start, weakening against the Japanese yen, just because it's not sustainable. Like honestly, if you ask me what I think that this bearish divergence has been spotted for a while now. Like it was a bearish divergence over here. Let me turn off my magnet here. There was a bearish divergence over here. I really thought that the trend was exhausted, and it just went ahead and make another like higher high here. So this is not really sustainable. Like I think a lot of traders, a lot of folks already know that the Japanese yen is going to drop. The question is whether or not it's going to end up being a positive or a negative for the market. I would say this: if you don't just focus on the USD over JPY, if you just focus on the Nikkei in general, the Nikkei actually looked pretty healthy, to be honest with you. It's had a little bit of a breakaway. Navy, welcome. when when you have a little bit of breakaway really over like since January, February 2023, you have like a pretty big parabolic move up, like about 20-30% up within just like a year and a half. And you needed to have some deleveraging that needed to happen. So you end up having I wouldn't say a made up macro event, but basically if you look at the chart, like this is completely expected. You just went way above a support level and you went back and back tested it, held. So far I'm not really that scared. And even with the like Sobichi cloud is still about like the kitchen, the whole entire thing just looks like a liquidity grab, if you will. What I mean by that is before price can go up higher, if there's a limited amount of capital that's available, the market makers, they generally trying to find capital. And what they do when they find capital is they're trying to get retail to get scared, to try to basically get you to give them your shares, or they might just plummet the price artificially based on some like macro events, and they try to hit your stop loss and try to take your shares, or they try to see whether or not there are people that are bluffing and like over leverage and try to see whether or not they can margin call you and take shares away from you. That's what I think that move was. So I think that you don't have to necessarily worry that the Japanese yen, let me see, USD/JPY. I'm gonna make this a monthly. I don't know, like right off the bat, people ask about macro stuff. It's interesting. I'm not necessarily going to be worried about like how the Japanese yen's going to do and how it's going to spook the market, because like completely honest with you, I think overall, I don't think they're really all that like correlated necessarily, although it does look like it's pretty nicely correlated in terms of how USD is overdoing with the Japanese yen. It might make the Japanese market actually a little bit strengthened because Japanese yen is cheap. It actually allows the Japanese liquidity to go up. When the US dollar is also weakening, and they are also opening up for potential for the US to actually also be able to print more money, I'm not really that worried about that, to be completely honest with you. I think all of this is just like a macro narrative shakeout, and I really don't care. Anyway, happy weekend. I'm gonna sip my wine here a little bit. One question was ROKU, and then somebody asked about the miners. We're definitely gonna go for the miners here. Go for Bitcoin, go for miners. Right off the bat, I'm just gonna answer ROKU here real quick. What I think about ROKU, I mean, if you just look at the ARK fund overall, it looks really nice because you have the rising 20-month moving average that continues to rise, and you have all these wicks down below. Like a lot of the liquidity has been tapped, and overall the trend over the last like 18 to 20 months really seemed to be pointing up, and that's being told to you by the fact that the 20-month moving average is going up. ROKU is a big holding of the ARK fund, and ROKU is going to basically just look very, very similar to that. It's trying to reclaim the 20-month moving average. It's trying to get over this volume shelf. It's been trading here at the current level here for a very long time. It's currently at the upper part of the range. It looks like it's want to try to break above it. It looks like it's trying to break above the rising 20-month moving average now. Another indicator that I actually look at real quick is going to be the Ichimoku cloud. You can see that initially have a little bit of a bullish cross here. Now you might have a little bit of bearish cross, but price is trying to get above the Tenkan and Kijin, right? So that's not a bad thing. Right now, you're still underneath the weekly Ichimoku cloud, so it's going to probably have a little bit of a hard time trying to get back above. But I think you might end up hitting a little bit of resistance here, but the cloud is also really thin as well. Another thing that I've also noticed is that you also see a katana here, which actually favors some bullish continuation. You might end up having a little bit of an initial resistance here. And it might come back down here, might be back test like the level around like 70, 71, or maybe a little bit lower around 68 because you have like the past cloud over here. So I can totally see it kind of whipsawing a little bit. But overall, even if it does that, the katana is probably going to keep rising. What I mean by katana, for those people who haven't like watched my videos video, this is a weekly Ichimoku cloud. It comes to different lines. It comes to the blue line, which is called the Tenkan, the red line, which is called the Kijin. And whenever you have the blue cross back over the red, generally is bullish. And whenever you have those two actually kind of overlap, it tells you like a bigger move is going to come because of like a lot of recent volatility that has happened, telling you that things are just consolidated for sideways for a long time, and then a bigger move is going to come, right? So ROKU actually is looking pretty good just based on that. And you remember one thing I did mention a lot, a pattern called a rising three, where you have a big green candle followed by two smaller red candle that gets engulfed by this previous green candle over here, basically means that the bulls have shown their hand, were powerful, and they let bears to see what they can do. They couldn't really do much for like 2 weeks in a row, and the bulls just kind of took over and just engulfed these past two candles over here, right? So I think probably it's going to end up hitting like 80, and whatever it does at 80, I really don't know. I can totally see it potentially breaking through, and I also potentially see it coming back down here to like the 70 and 69 before going up higher. Regardless, I think for the longer term, because of what I'm seeing on the weekly, because I'm seeing here on the monthly, that's trying to reclaim the Tenkan and Kijun, and also because what I'm seeing here on the 20-month moving average is trying to reclaim that, and it's rising after being so like negative sloping for so long, it's finally rising, right? So I think ROKU is probably going to end up doing pretty well, just like along with a bunch of other RK heavy stocks. Woo! That's that. And let's see, do I leverage trade? The answer is, depending on what you mean. I have a position in T triple Qs in a in a S&P 500 2x leverage fund called SSO. I also have like the 2x SMH, which is the semiconductor ETF. I have a position in all three. And I generally do like long-term cycle swing trades. I generally don't like to just go in and out of them. You're going to have some decay, you know, like the past few weeks, there's some like, you know, whipsaw, and, you know, you end up going to lose like a lot of money. But I end up buying those a long time ago, like start buying them around like June to October 2022. So they're still up, you know, pretty decently nicely. But I don't like leverage playing. You're wondering about like TSLL or like, you know, Nvidia, like leverage plays. Like, I don't do any of those stuff short term. I'm more like a long-term cat, if you will. All right. Somebody mentioned snow. Thank you, MetaSound, for watching out for all cats. I appreciate that. Snowflake. What do I think about Snowflake? I think there's a possibility. This is a monthly chart Snowflake. I think there's a possibility. Again, this is a falling knife, right? Because of how many candles going down in a row, is breaking down a lot of support. I think there's a possibility that Snowflake might have bottomed because it's got a very nice tweezer, because it touched the lower Bollinger Band on the monthly here enough times that I think there's a possibility where Snowflake may have bottomed, but I'm not sure because it's still a falling knife. I like the tweezer bottom look so far. The month hasn't ended yet, right? You still have another 2 weeks of trading. But I like the fact that it's got a little bit of like tweezer bottom. But even if it's bottom, and there's no guarantee that it has done so, even if it's bottom, the 20-month moving average is still negatively sloping. So even if it's bottom and it goes up, you're going to end up having meet a negative sloping 20-month moving average, and that's still going to be resistant. So you're probably going to end up getting frustrated for the rest of 2024 and early 2025 is what I think about Snowflake. And that's just the reality. I mean, you can get into it, it's fine. You also have a little bit of a bearish cross over here on the Tenkan and Kijun on the monthly, which basically means that you have a way to go, and you continue to have some, you know, a lot of resistance above. On the weekly here, you can see that the Tenkan and Kijun is still pretty far away, and the Tenkan is still negative sloping. So it's going to be potentially resistance until proven otherwise. Now, if you ask me whether or not this is a falling knife worth catching, and if you're saying that you have patience, well, let's look at some of the other indicators here. I don't see any on the weekly, any bullish divergence here on balance volume. And on the RSI here, where's my RSI? Relative Strength Index. And I don't really see any convincing bullish divergence here on RSI either. So it's a falling knife, you know, but I don't know whether or not I necessarily want to buy. If you go to a little bit of a higher time frame, I can see that it's building up a longer time frame bullish divergence, if you will, where price just, you know, been plummeted down like this, and RSI has been, you know, kind of going up, you know, but it's not a very strong bullish divergence, and price can still go down further on bearish divergence. So if you're going to get into Snowflake, I would say exercise caution and be patient, and just kind of know what you're getting yourself into. If you're entering as a trade, that's a different story, because if you enter as a trade, there is potentially a lot of, you know, upside here, right? Let's say, for example, from like 113 all the way up to 10 up here, like 122, if you're able to kind of reclaim that as from resistance to support, and you can even potentially go up to the 130s, I can see it making like 20% gain from here, but you're still going to end up having like a lot of long-term resistance. So if that would be a little bit, you know, a different story. So yeah, let's talk about the Bitcoin, shall we? And then we can talk about the MicroStrategy. We can talk about all the other stuff here. Yeah, actually, you'd say most alts have suffered definitely for the last few months, but they've been doing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. It's pretty interesting too in terms of how it works. I drew a Gann chart on X earlier, and if you want to learn how to draw this, I kind of learned from Matt Speed and like do some reading on like on the internet, and also watch a few videos by other great YouTubers talking about this. I basically just set up this Gann over here in the setting. I have like 1440 and I have 5000 for the ratio. And it looks like it's working out in terms of the market symmetry to be very, very, very nice, right? Right now, what is actually happening in Bitcoin, I think, is just, like you have the arc and the horizontal line as pretty decent resistance, right? And I think right now we're just at resistance. We've been trying to push through for the last like 6 months, and we're just not really been able to do that quite just yet. But on the other hand, like if I zoom out here on the monthly, there are a lot of very positive things that are going for Bitcoin. One of which is the Ishimoku, like the rising Tenkan. That's generally a very, very nice push up here. I love these wicks down below, right? For the month of July, August, and September, there's a lot of demand underneath, and it does look like we're having a little bit of like a bull flag over here, right? So there are a lot of very positive things about it, although we're still stuck underneath resistance. So I don't know whether or not we have to go down further before going up, but I just also came up with like a lot of reason as to why I think that most likely you already had the local bottom for Bitcoin already in here. One of the reason why is because the Ishimoku cloud, like last weekend, I remember basically posting, hey, it was hitting 53,000, maybe a little bit below, hitting the weekly Ishimoku cloud. This could have been it, right? The other thing I was kind of showing was the both the exponential as well as the let me see if I can do a little bit of a different color here. Both the exponential moving average on the 50 as well as the simple moving average of 50, they're both serving as support over here. Like it looks like it's forming a very nice ribbon. And it looks like there's a lot of confluence at this support zone, right? Both the 50 EMA and the 50 SMA and the Ichimoku cloud, like everything is right there. So it's also got some resistance about a Tenkan Kijun. They're all above here. So probably going to maybe end up squeezing here, maybe become a little bit of like a ascending triangle here a little bit before maybe breaking out. But the cloud is also very thick down here too. So I think that support's probably going to be pretty decent moving forward. If you ask me about like impending recession, we've talked about this on a morning stream. I think that the data points are insufficient to call a recession because the last 5 years have been extremely strange when it comes to unemployment, when it comes to stock market deleveraging, when it comes to a lot of things. Last few years has been extremely strange. So I don't really think that recession is always impending. Nobody knows when it's going to be. And there's a way for the Fed to print their way out of it if they can handle the inflation, which has been going down, and if they can catch it in time. Like I honestly, like the yields have already gone down and the U.S. liquidity has already gone up. In a way, I'm going to basically just get rid of all this stuff here. So I just want to show you that I think we're at a pretty decent support zone over here. A lot of reasons as to why I think that Bitcoin bottom. If you look at the, let's see here, the M2 Global Liquidity Index, this basically is the summation of the money supply from the US, China, Japan, Europe, and Great Britain. And basically, you can see that it's pretty clear that it's been going up. It broke away from this horizontal zone over here that has been happening really for quite many years. It really like broke above this area and it just convincingly just wanted to go up higher, right? All of this quantitative tightening resulting in great deleveraging. The deleveraging for Bitcoin has already happened. It dropped like 80%. And right now, it's very, very similar to how it was during the last cycle too. We also have a little bit of like a mini stock market crash around, like late 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. Same thing, right? You have this line over here, and as soon as you're able to break above, and the global liquidity is breaking above, that's when you start to have this pre-parabolic bull trend for Bitcoin, right? So this thing happens over and over again. Now, you're talking about a recession like we have in the Great Financial Crisis. if you're expecting a great financial crisis to come again, you have to ask yourself whether or not we have the same leverage that has been in place, the same irresponsibility that has been in place, and the same irrational exuberance that has been in place as we did back in the great financial crisis that required that level of deleveraging. I'm not really seeing that. So yeah, I mean, matter of fact, some people argue that we've been going through different recessions throughout the last few years in different sectors. So I'm not necessarily gonna buy into the recession narratives. Nobody knows when it's gonna happen. So yeah, so those are my thoughts for Bitcoin. It's still underneath resistance. I would like to see it really breaking above the zone, obviously. Whenever it does end up doing that, and because the global liquidity is rising, I think it's probably, and because we're at a very, very interesting support zone over here, I do think that the next move is probably going to be up. I could be wrong. It could certainly go down further. I'm okay with that, right? I'm just telling you what I'm thinking. If it's able to break above, you also have to think about the upside risk too. What if you're wrong? What if there's no recession? Holy crap, where's Bitcoin going to go, right? Break above this resistance, back test it. And if the cycle keeps on working the way they are, if it ends up being like around mid or late 2025, then you're talking about 6 digits Bitcoin, somewhere around here, maybe like 110s, 120s, somewhere around here. If it breaks about this this arc over here, you can potentially hit like maybe the 200s. I think it's entirely possible. But yeah, I mean, just look at kind of what it did over and over again when it comes to the entire cycle, right? Like you look at what it did over and over again. It just keeps breaking level after level, and it came back and test support over and over again. Like that's exactly what it did over the years. So I'm not going to bet against Bitcoin. You also have to take into consideration what happened over here during this big giant crash. You have the highest rate of inflation for like 4 or 5 decades. You have quantitative tightening, which hasn't really happened for like ever really for a very, very long time. You have the Russian-Ukraine conflict. You have the Middle East conflict. You have Pelosi went to China. Oh, sorry, Pelosi went to Taiwan. You have banks failed, right? You have a lot of things that happen. Like if you're talking about recession, you're talking about macroeconomics where banks are failing, and that already happened. And they're already printing their way out of it. Like the U.S. liquidity is already no longer decreasing. Quantitative tightening is ending. So anyway, I'm done talking about that. All right. So what is up with the rest of the stuff? Let's talk about the usual stocks I like to talk about. MicroStrategy. What's MicroStrategy doing? How is it doing as compared to Bitcoin? It's doing better than Bitcoin, isn't it? I'm going to show you here on a monthly. So Bitcoin, you have a March candle over here. And you have these candles that are kind of closing underneath of that, right? Does MicroStrategy have that flaccid problem? No, it does not. It looks like it's erected pretty well because you have 6 inside candles to this March candle over here. It looks like usually when you have a bunch of inside candles like this, and usually if the trend is up, if the primary trend is up, after the inside candle has happened, most likely bullish continuation, right? You can ask me, hey, what about this over here? It looks kind of similar to that. If you're asking me about that, we just talked about it on our morning live stream with Danny, the Great Masby, and everybody else. Go watch it. We talk a little bit about MicroStrategy, and Danny showed an absolutely beautiful chart that he has on the monthly here, and he also has a position in MicroStrategy. He remains bullish, and so do I. There are a couple of things that are basically also telltale too. I do not think that this area over here is the same as this area over here. One reason is because we have broken underneath the Tenkan, the monthly Tenkan and Kijun, and that basically has served resistance for like almost like a whole year, and we finally broke down underneath below, right? Right now, both of these are support. Like it really looks like it wants to just keep going. If you look at the MicroStrategy over Bitcoin chart, it's still relatively outperforming Bitcoin right now, right? If the assets that is leveraged to Bitcoin is doing better than Bitcoin, I have a hard time really seeing that the cycle being over. The reason why I say that is if you compare the current cycle to the last cycle over here, if you compare it to like what Bitcoin is doing, and I keep talking about the same thing over and over again. I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of a broken record, but people keep asking the same question, so I'm happy to just keep yapping about the same thing, I guess. If you're comparing to like Bitcoin this cycle compared to Bitcoin last cycle, I mean it's not going to be exact thing because they don't really line up perfectly. But I just want to show you, like during the last cycle, Bitcoin topped out around November, where MicroStrategy topped out around February, right? Whales already knew something. They already exited, and they're already deleveraged. They're using you as exit liquidity, and they are they're happily distributing shares to you. Whenever Bitcoin's making a little bit of a slightly higher high, whales already knew that, hey, this is probably time to distribute. Then distribute they did, right? Here, a little bit different story. It looks like Bitcoin's kind of going downward and making a little bit of bull flag. And here, like the whales are holding MicroStrategy, leverage play for Bitcoin. They're like, okay, let's try to do a little bit of reaccumulation here. So you really have a hard time getting MicroStrategy down. I think MicroStrategy is looking pretty decent. So what else do you get? Let me see. Somebody mentioned CleanSpark, right? So let's talk about CleanSpark. Happy to do that. Right off the bat, CleanSpark is, because it broke down underneath a lot of the monthly Ichimoku, the next logical level is going to be a rising 20-month moving average, and so far it's finding support. And you're like, oh, US support could potentially break down further underneath support. Of course it can, right? But you have to play the probability game here. It did break down from a lot of the levels that I was watching before, and that's unfortunate. Like, it broke down underneath the Tenkan Nikkei. I was hoping it would be serving as support, but it didn't. Things just basically went way too far, way too fast, and it needed this move to kind of come back down to correct. And it corrected, right? The whole idea too is that it is trying to find some pretty decent support zone here. So one support zone is trying to find is this. If I turn on the magnet here, and if I do this over here, I just do a quick Fibonacci sequence here. And if I do the log scale, you can see that a little bit better. There are a couple of support that is finding, right? One is the 20-month moving average. Another one is the 0.5 Fibonacci level on the log. It basically had a big breakout over here, and I guess it back tested here a little bit, but then decided I wanted to go and back test it again. So back tested again, it did, right? And so far the week ended up closing above that Fibonacci level. So that's good. The other thing that CleanSpark is doing is also forming a bullish candle. If you're going to have a little bit of a reversal, the reversal is not going to happen with a bear flag necessarily, and with a bearish engulfing candle. This really looks like the probability of this being like a reverse, like a bullish Harami candle is high. And also did this GAN chart here just last night. I got kind of obsessed with GAN last night. The GAN was kind of drawn based on these perimeters. I basically just used the lowest point that CleanSpark has ever traded, even though that they weren't really a Bitcoin miner back then. But I was using the lower point over here to draw a GAN square using perimeter, like the duration is 720 and the ratio is 20. And it looks like it's got some really beautiful market symmetry. Like, I didn't really do anything on top of just putting in the numbers. It looks like it's got some really beautiful symmetry. Like, it got rejected here at the angle, came back down, back tested horizontal, came up, almost got close to the top of the arc, and just kind of get stuck inside the arc, right? It's still inside the arc. Initially last week it closed outside, but this week we end up getting back inside, right? So I can see this being a pretty decent spot where I might end up having some bullish reversal. And you're going to get some resistance up here to gap fill. You're going to get some resistance here to gap fill. You're also going to get some, let me see here. You're also going to get some resistance in general at the zone over here between 10 to 12 bucks. So it probably still has a lot of technicals that it needs to work out. I don't think it's just going to be like a V-shaped recovery, just going to shoot up from here. Maybe it takes another 4 to 8 weeks for it to kind of shake off its jitters and get back up to around like the 15 to 16 level, which is probably going to be like the top of the arc over here. And then we'll see how it reacts from there. We'll also see how Bitcoin does at that point. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about CleanSpark. Those are my thoughts on that. Another thing too, I guess it's very similar. Like 100 week is very similar to like a 20 month, but it was a very, very nice kind of resistance flip support zone over here. So this is the 100 week moving average. You can see how nicely it served as resistance over here, support over here, resistance over here, resistance over here, and we finally flip it from resistance to support, which, based on technical analysis, if you have something that had gone from resistance to to support over here, that's generally a very positive thing for stock price. especially it just kind of basically made like a little bit of a higher low compared to this low over here. So the lower it goes, the more bullish I was. I get, but it's at a pretty strong area of support, and it looks like it wants to hold. So we'll see. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, if it plummets all the way down to like $4, then I'm sorry. But I'm in this. So if this doesn't end up working well, I'm losing money together with you too. So I say right now I have like I generally don't like to talk about my position size, but I have like 3,000 shares, a little over 3,000 shares. I was adding over here. I've been adding a lot more over here. So but I'm in it. If I end up losing money, so be it. I'm just here. I just want to share my thoughts to talk about technical analysis. I'm not trying to like pump things necessarily most of the time. So, woo, that was CleanSpark Mara. Let's just go for all the miners, shall we? I also came up with this Mara again chart here too. Again, if you want to look at the parameters that I use, this is a log. I use 720 and I use 40 here for the ratio. It gave me a pretty nice chart with pretty nice market symmetry. Why do I have these circles over here? Well, it's because this is where 100-week moving average was touching. Support, resistance, support, but breakdown as support, resistance, flip support, right? So technically, there's a possibility where, because this has happened where you flip from resistance to support, this might actually be a beginning of like a longer bull trend. It's also happening right at the GAN angle over here too. And this angle looks like it's been holding pretty well ever since the bottom over here in like March of 2020 is held over here. There's a lot of confluence over here. It looks like it's so far it's also holding here at this current area too. So if it holds, if it flips resistance for support, if it's coming back down testing support, if it's holding, I'm bullish. If you ask me what it's going to do next, I think once we're converting this as support, it's probably going to gravitate up to the horizontal zone back up to the 30s, which is the top of this range over here. So I'm not too bearish on Mara. Matter of fact, I actually like the risk-reward ratio as to where we're at right now. Ichimoku is falling underneath, so I think you're going to, before it really gets up to the horizontal, you're going to have some resistance around $20. I think price can probably end up gravitating up towards $20, and you might see some resistance there, and then it's probably going to go up higher once we're able to break the resistance up above. But I think this is a pretty decent bottom, to be honest. And I can't really say anything bad about like this chart right now as we speak. The Supi-Ichi is also very nicely holding with the Tenkan. You have this like very nice wick down below, and currently the month's not over yet, 2 more weeks of trading, but currently is kind of reclaiming the Suichi Tenkan here, right? So it's kind of gotten back to the bottom of this range over here. I see some pretty nice things developing for Mara. If you ask me about Bitfarm's the same. They have like the very same chart, like they're basically holding an angle right here. I did a GAN for CIFR. Again, I use a pretty standard parameter here because CIFR didn't really have a whole lot of history. So it's going to look like it's not as bullish, but it's just the way that I have to draw it. I use 720 and tan for the GAN to do this log chart, but because it's just like the beginning of the company, I don't really have a whole lot of history to a chart. I think that's probably going to end up hitting, because it's holding a pretty decent support over here, it's probably going to end up hitting like around 4.5, somewhere around there for the immediate future, or maybe over the next couple of months or so. And we'll see where it goes after that. You still have like a lot of resistance over here. If it's able to break above the arc and angle resistance, then you're talking about double digits, right? Potentially even like $20. And you're talking about breaking that, then we'll talk later. But so far, that's kind of what I'm seeing here with CIFR. It did look like there's a lot of demand. I still think that the entire thing over here is reaccumulation. And I still think that over here is a little bit of a shakeout. Because I just can't, like, if you look at the institutional accumulation, like there are a lot of people buying CIFR. So I can't be that bearish for CIFR over the long term. But in the short term, yeah, it's unfortunate. There are a few things here on the short term that I'm just like, man, why do you have to do that? Right. First of all, like the 20-month moving average is pointing up, but it really needs to close the month about like 3.28 to really get back above a rising 20-month moving average. They had their offering, I guess, is at the wrong time, and like the market was weak at that time, and and they got punished for it. That's kind of where CIFR's at. I still have a position in CIFR because I still think that it's found some pretty good support zone down here, you know, around like 2.6, 2.5, somewhere around here. I think it's a pretty strong support zone, though. I am still pretty bullish over the entire sector. So I'm still bullish on CIFR in terms of the chart, in terms of market structure. So we'll see. But yeah, it's one of those that has been not very pretty, but that's okay. IREN, it's reclaimed the 0.236 to close the week. It is still kind of at this volume shelf, so I think it might still take some time to kind of break about this volume shelf and to convincingly really break about this Fibonacci level here for real. But it looks like it was just doing like a very nice symmetrical triangle breakout and back test, and it held, and it's just kind of going sideways, stuck in range over here, trying to work out its technicals. On a longer time, a higher time frame, like there's really like not much that I'm bearish about this chart. The Bollinger Band tells a whole story. When everybody was euphoric around June and July, it was way outside the upper Bollinger Band, formed trees or top, came back down. Now it's inside of the upper Bollinger Band, above a rising 20. Didn't even have to back test it, showing relatively strength for compared to other miners. Having a little bit of the trees or bottom building up so far for August and September. This is a pretty bullish look. So WULF, probably arguably one of the more bullish ones out of them all. It's just like IREN. It close about the upper Bollinger Band on monthly for 2 months in a row, and just getting punished, just going sideways instead of going down. 20-month was pointing up, looking very, very nice. I don't have anything bad to say about TeraWulf. I have a position. I'm very happy about its performance so far. Is it always going to do this well? I don't know, but like right now it's holding even the bull and support band, whereas the other miners have like all basically broken down underneath the bull and support band. WULF is holding, so showing some relative strength. Back tested the zone over here around like 2.6 already. I don't think it has to necessarily come back down again, forming a little bit of a symmetrical triangle, waiting for a breakout. We'll see what Bitcoin does, but overall it's a pretty bullish chart. Even on the Ichimoku, it's like way above the Ichimoku cloud on the weekly. And on the monthly, it's like one of the more bullish charts. Like this almost looked like it also has like a like a MicroStrategy look down to it, above the Tenkan and Kijun. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on that. BTBT, I have a position in. BTBT does look like it wants to reclaim the Kijun. Does look like it might be still a little stuck in a range here. But a couple of things are pretty bullish. Like for example, it's reclaimed the rising 20-month moving average. It's got like 2 wicks underneath. I think it's holding that's pretty decent support so far. It looks like one of the better miners. I like it. I also like the fact that they're stacking your Ethereum, which I'm also like more bullish on long term. Even though Ethereum, like nobody's really talking about that anymore. But anyway, HUD, one of the laggards. I'm not going to talk too much about it. It's reclaimed the 20-month moving average again, and it's still like flat to slowly rising. So HUD actually doesn't look bad at all. I don't have too much else to say about it. I'd like to see it reclaim the Tenkan and Kijun. It's one of those that are lagging behind the few that that we talked about so far. But again, last cycle it was also a little bit like a late cycle bloomer. So we'll see. CORZ, I don't really have a whole lot to say on monthly chart. There's really not a whole lot to chart here. But I do have to say this is one of those that are showing some relative strength in terms of what it's doing. I just don't have a whole lot to like really say about it. But it's like above a lot of the support levels that I'm seeing. For whatever reason, I think like 10 to 11 bucks is really strong resistance zone over here. It's trying to break out. We'll see. I can totally see it coming back down to like $7 or $8 to kind of deleverage here a little bit. I can potentially see it coming back down even to like 8.5 or something like that to back test the rising 20-week moving average, but it doesn't have to. It looks like it has some relative strength. RIOT is the big one. I did a little bit of a GAN here for RIOT. I lost it. I guess I deleted it. So a lot of people ask me about RIOT. I'm going to do a quick GAN here because it's really not hard to do. I can show you how I do it. I turn on the magnet right here, and I go to the GAN, which is underneath Fibonacci retracement. I did a little bit of a tutorial for members only, but if you really want to find out like the detail of how I do it, you can look that up. But basically, I'm just going to draw a square here. The last one I did was 7. Let me see. The last one I did was 720. So I'm going to go to 720 here at the bottom. Going to zoom out here. 720 is the bottom number. Come on, man. There you go, 720. And the top ratio over here, I used the number 2. So it gives you, did it end up giving me the GAN here? Yeah, okay. So if I do this, it gives me a pretty decent market symmetry. Again, I'm not like just dragging a line and just make a GAN. I'm actually just inputting some decent number. It's got some pretty decent market symmetry, rejection, support, rejection, support, rejection. And then this horizontal zone over here is pretty important, around 12.3, somewhere around there, $12, somewhere around there. Basically, what RIOT has been doing is just been having a difficult time breaking about this horizontal zone. So what it do, it went back down and back test the angle over here. Last week, I'm closing below, kind of like what CleanSpark was doing, is closing below support. And this week it bounced back above the angle. So actually, it looks like it's a pretty decent support zone. I got to say though, it looks weaker compared to like pretty much all the other miners that I look at. I don't know, like if I just look at the 20, 50, and 20, sorry, 20, 50, and 100 weekly moving averages underneath all of them. So you're probably going to end up having a hard time, like just win-shotting. I think it needs to take maybe at least a couple of months to work out some of this nasty technicals over here where 20 is like flipped underneath 150. Yeah, but RIOT needs some work to do, even on a higher time frame. If you don't use the GAN here, just look at the monthly here. Look at the 20-month moving average. It's rising, but currently price is just like way underneath of that. It looks like a pretty nice hammer candle though, so hey, maybe RIOT has really bottomed. It's certainly a lot of indicators are telling you that that's the case. But yeah, those are my thoughts for RIOT. I think since I'm talking about that, a lot of people probably have asked about like Coinbase as well. I think Coinbase is going to do very well. All Coinbase is doing is just basically come back and back test the breakout of this level over here. And it's got a rising 20 underneath as some pretty decent support. I don't know. I mean, I can try to do a log scale GAN here. Probably not going to do a very good job. But let me try that on the weekly here. I'm just going to do the same thing here using the magnet, using the GAN, using the bottom price over here. Just going to eyeball it. I think I'm going to use the time like maybe 360, like that. And I'm going to change the top maybe to like 5, the ratio to like 5, right? Let's see if it gives me any R symmetry. I didn't do this before. I did not look at this before. I basically just do this just now. The problem is this is not a magnet, guys. I need to touch the bottom there. Now I need to readjust this 5. Zoom out again, make sure, yep, it's still 360. Very nice market symmetry. Very, very nice market symmetry. Look at how beautiful this is, right? Rejection, and then breakout, rejection. Test the support from here. Break through. Where did it get rejected over here? Where did it get support at the angle? Where did it get rejected up here at the angle? Where did it end up gravitating back towards the horizontal zone? Broke down. Where did it go? Right here on the arc, right? How did price end up doing over the last week? Close back above the horizontal right there. So where do I think price is going to gravitate towards? Probably back to the arc. And where do I think that if it breaks above the arc, where is it going to go? I honestly, if you ask my honest opinion, I hate to be a moon boy, moon cat, whatever you call. I think it's probably going to hit like 800 this cycle. Because it's doing what you think it's supposed to do. Like this is, I did not make this up. Like I didn't even chart this on the GAN, and this is what I'm seeing. Like just like that. This is amazing. Like, I don't know. Like before I met the great Masby, like I was like, I have no idea. Like GAN works like this. It's looks just absolutely beautiful in terms of its market symmetry. Can it go down further? Can it break down underneath horizontal and keep riding down to like 130s? Possible, right? If it does that, I guess it's still a higher low compared to over here, but does it look like it want to do that? I don't know, right? Looking at the entire altcoin the altcoin market here, I'm going to delete all these arrows. Actually, I'm just going to delete the whole drawing here. Looking at the altcoin market, what do I think is doing, right? I mean, just looking at overall, so far you got like all these nice wicks here. You got a little bit of the trees at bottom, look. And for September, which is a very bearish month in general, so far we have a green candle for altcoins, right? And if you look at the Bollinger Band, it's using 20-month moving average as support. And if you just look at the structure here, like it's basically just back testing a breakout zone over here. Like it's got a little bit of a trend line back test and it's holding, right? There's really nothing like really too entirely bearish about this chart. It looks like a big giant cup with a handle that's forming. If you also look at the volume, the cup has been rising on high volume and the handle has been on low volume, right? There's like really not much that's bearish about altcoins. If you wait till October for confirmation, I completely understand. I completely understand. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Man, I just went through like all of these things in how much time did I spend like with it, like 45 minutes. I'm going to go through some chart requests and go back here. Somebody mentioned about Hood. I agree. Robinhood has had a good week. What do I think about Robinhood? I generally link these things together with crypto anyway. They apparently Robinhood just listed XRP, and the Great Matsby is like super excited about it. I don't blame him because yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about XRP if I want viewers to not leave. But what you're seeing here for Robinhood, what has happened so far, is get close to back testing and rising 20. Very nice, right? Initially, a few months ago, I was concerned about Robinhood. I was not adding to Robinhood because of one thing, or actually two things. One thing is on the monthly chart, it had a bullish cross, but the price was just way above, like in June, it was just way above the Tenkan, way above the blue. So I was thinking either sideways or correction through price. You ended up doing both, right? So you end up doing both, and now I'm a lot more bullish when it comes to Robinhood. You already have a little bit of like a monthly bullish engulfing over here. Things look pretty decent, right? Another thing I was a little bit worried about Robinhood was from a few months ago was if you look at it weekly, and if you do the if you just do the RSI, you can clearly see that the price over here, as price went from like 20 all the way up to like 24, is on a very exhausted move. And you can tell that because the RSI was trending down. You have a very, bearish divergence over here. And that bearish divergence has worked out, right? Like we cannot say that it hasn't worked out. Boom, it's worked out already, right? So we don't really have like that much of a bullish divergence or bearish divergence or anything like that. I think right now it's just blah, but so far the price action over the last few weeks has been extremely reactive. Very, very nice buying over here. Nice capitulation, lots of buying pressure. And right now we're back at the zone up here. So I'm not bearish on Robinhood from a higher time frame. On a lower time frame, I'm also not bearish on it. I have a position, even on the monthly RSI, like it really has done nothing yet. Like I can, for something to like really be that bullish, and you really worry about the top is in. I mean, for Robinhood, I think it potentially still have a lot more room to go. Yeah, happy about Robinhood. I have a position, and I think it was back when I had my old accounts. I think in January of 2024, it was my number 2 buy, I want to say, and my cost average is like around 12. I bought around here. I've just been holding. I don't care. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. All right, what's next on the list here? What do I think about Ethereum underperformance? I feel very sad about it, and I keep buying Ethereum because I feel very sad, because I like to buy sad things. If you want to ask my honest opinion about what's going on with underperformance with Ethereum over Bitcoin, look no further than the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart. This is the ratio. Basically, there are two things to look at here. First thing to look at is you are basically back testing a horizontal zone over here. I need to turn off the magnet. There you go. You're basically looking at a horizontal zone over here, right? It's very, very easy to see that basically it's just been, the ratio itself had a breakout around like April 2021, and it's just been back testing that level, right? The other thing to consider is this. is that if you look at a smaller time frame, it does have a little bit more of a bullish divergence, although you're starting to lose a little bit of bullish divergence here. But even on the weekly, like even as the ratio keeps on going down, as Ethereum continues to underperform Bitcoin, it does look like the momentum is slowing down because this ratio goes down, but the RSI is actually still pointing up, right? So I don't know. It's a falling knife for sure when it comes to like Ethereum over Bitcoin, but I just like the fact that it's kind of back testing this horizontal zone. Number one. Number two, nobody's really talking about Ethereum anymore. And it's just like, absolutely crazy. Number three, the altcoin market, I just show you like the others chart, which excludes the top 10 coins. Altcoin looks pretty decent. Altcoin's looking really decent right now. So I can't really say anything bad about Ethereum because of a whole lot of different things I'm looking at. The fourth thing too is if you look at the monthly, I think that Ethereum has most likely at bottom. It formed a very, very nice tweezer bottom over here. And I think that Ethereum is, it has to me, like I think Ethereum should hit this RSI trend line. I think Ethereum hasn't really even started to do anything quite yet. And I can see it whenever it gets going, I can see it hitting the RSI trend line over here. The Gann square that I drew here from last night, and I'm gonna kind of show you how like the numbers I did. Hopefully the numbers all weird. Oh, because I'm on the monthly. So 720 and 400 on the weekly. That's how I drew this Gann. And this Gann gives me very, very nice market symmetry overall, right? Not perfect, but good enough, right? Basically from the bottom over here around 2015, bounce, 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 bouncy balls, bounce, bounce, bounce. Like it's very beautiful market symmetry, right? So far, I was a little bit concerned. I still am a little bit concerned. It did end up breaking underneath the 45-degree angle over here. But I think that Ethereum has found its bottom. I think most likely it's going to end up breaking back above the angle. Most likely, based on what I think, is probably going to end up riding up along this angle. It could, if it ends up actually having some more bullishness to come in, then I can potentially see the target being, maybe close to like 20,000. If it doesn't, I can probably see it at least hitting like the top of this arc over here, which is around like, 7,000, somewhere around there. So risk reward right now, I think is pretty decent. The couple other things too with Ethereum is that if you look at the monthly here, is just like a lot of miners, it's just basically back testing the rising 20-month moving average and it's holding so far. It's got some really nice break underneath below. And it's also a little bit unfortunate too that like it's kind of broken underneath the monthly Ichimoku cloud. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but so far I still think that Ethereum is going to do just fine. Just like the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart, it was backtesting horizontal zone. It's basically doing the same thing over here. The big giant cup in a handle, right? A big giant cup in a handle, and this downtrend over here has been on like really not much volume compared to before. So I'm not worried about Ethereum. I think all it takes is just altcoins to go crazy, and there's really no alternative. I guess there are a bunch of alternatives, but at some point there's going to be like no alternatives then to really get involved with the Ethereum blockchain because you're going to have a bunch of other layer ones, but Ethereum's still king. And I think a lot of people kind of forget about that. So it's going to come back. But anyways, that was my answer to Ethereum. Yeah, I already talked about macro. Bitcoin, altcoins suffered. Everyone on X is bullish about rate cut next week. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe next week is going to be another shakeout. I think it's entirely possible. Knowing how they're going to do. Yeah, there's a strong support over 7.5 for Clean Spark. Yeah, probably so. DK, welcome. Let's see. I think I went through all the chart requests except for SOFI and Palantir. You want to talk about my two bread and butter? I'll talk about my two bread and butter. SOFI. I have not done the Gann for this. Now that I'm like Gann itchy, Ichimoku. No, I'm like Gandophiliac. I'm gonna just go ahead and experiment with the GAN here. First of all, before I even do that, just right off the bat, I already posted this on X. It already broken through this bear line trend line. I already had that drawn here, right? Very nice pitchfork as it goes up, and very nice bear line trend line down here. We closed above the trend line. Really 3 weeks not in a row, but like 3 weeks over the last 4, right? Last week was a little bit of a shakeout. Same thing happened with like CleanSpark. Same thing happened with like Coinbase. A lot of things just kind of like dip underneath their support level, get you all scared, right? But next thing you know, like the next week after that, what do you see right here? That's a bullish harami candle, right? So this potentially favors more bullish continuation. Is there a reason why you have this big giant down arrow right there? Yes, we talked about that. It was way outside the weekly upper bowl in Japan. It was also right at the weekly Shimogu cloud resistance. So I expected it to come back down. I just didn't know how far. I was thinking, hey, maybe 7.5, 7.2, 7.3. And I'm mixing ended up closing right at $7 last week, or the week before, I guess. I'm like, man, next thing you know, this week, you end up closing above. What was happening right now is SOFI. What's happening right now is SOFI. The Tenkan is touching the Kijun because of the volatility that happened over the last like 9 weeks. The Tenkan is touching the Kijun, and you have a Katana. So a bigger move could come. I really think the Katana might be the catalyst for the Cantonese cat to think that you might end up pushing above the Ichimoku card here on the weekly here to go higher. That's not a bad thing. Look, now I'm gonna do a live demonstration on how to fail at doing a GAN chart. I'm gonna, hey man, I don't want to get rid of this pitchfork, but I'll move that out of the way for now. And I think the trend line can draw that at any time. So let's do it again. I haven't done this here. The magnet, make sure it's magneting. The lowest price is around December 2022. So I'm going to start from that point. What happened? My mouse. I'm going to start from that point. I'm going to draw. And the period that I'm going to draw, let's just pick an arbitrary. Let's do like 360 in terms of duration. And I'm doing this live. I haven't done this. I'm just like doing it, right? And then in terms of the scale, I really don't know what would be like a good price bar ratio. It looks like 1 might be pretty low. Yeah, 1 looks pretty low. I'm gonna do a little bit of like a fraction here. I'm gonna do like 0.5. Let's see if it gives me any good symmetry. It's okay. All right, let me see. What about 0.2? Yeah, 0.2. So the thing is, like, if you do these different racial numbers, it gives you different symmetry numbers. I can totally see these levels also working out too, right? But if you stick with 0.5, I can also see that it's kind of telling you a little bit of a different story. Like it's kind of still stuck in the arc after the arc being resistance. It broke through the arc and now is backtesting the angle, backtesting the arc. So I can totally see this argument, right? If it breaks through about the arc, where's it going to gravitate up towards? Maybe like $9, right? We have a lot of resistance over here before. And if you break that above that, where's it going to go? To the teens, right? I ultimately have the 14 target here because I think it's going to be still a lot of resistance up here. So I can see that it's doing a lot of constructive things, like this arc over here has been resistance. And now you're finally breaking inside the arc, right? That's the story that I'm seeing, right? Although it doesn't really fit like all this stuff over here. I like to look for market symmetry. So let me do like 0.2 and see whether or not it gives me a little bit of a different picture here. It does give me a little different picture here, doesn't it? If you do a 0.2, tells you a different story. 0.2 basically all it's doing right now is it basically came back, bounced from this very confluent zone over here, came back, got rejected this angle, came back down, broke underneath the angle. The angle was resistance, came back down. What did it do? Trying to get back above the horizontal, got rejected, came back to the angle, found support, and now trying to challenge the $8 range again, got rejected, and it's finding support here at the arc. Like this is a pretty nice thing to look at. It's still stuck in a range here, like no matter what number you use, which is why I don't think that like people think that GAN is like subjective, but you can't really put that many numbers on here. Like on the 0.5 is stuck in a range. On 0.2, on 0.2 is stuck in range, right? Like it's telling you the same story. So to me, it doesn't really matter, and it's kind of magical in terms of how I think it's working. So I'm gonna post like the Coinbase and the SOFI Gann chart later, just because I get pretty excited about these things now. Now that I'm like really looking into them, so that's what I think about SOFI. I think SOFI is looking pretty decent. It's building up more bullish energy, and I'm gonna keep buying as long as it's under $8. When it's about $8, I'll see. I might keep adding some, but I might start to focus on other stocks. But SoFi is like one of my top 5 individual stock holdings. Just yeah, it is just what it is, right? But I like it. I like what I'm seeing. Palantir, there's really not much to talk about. Man, why did it not hit that? Let's see here. First of all, I need to turn on the MACD here. I did a Gann. I dabbled in a Gann with Palantir. I know my Gann chart looks a little bit different from Matsby's because everybody does Gann a little bit differently. You input the numbers that you want and you look for market symmetry. So I do 360 here, and I do I think I do the ratio as like 2. So right off the bat, I'm not like playing around like dragging, trying to do like a best fit kind of thing. I just put the numbers in right off the bat. Is that resistance? Man, is that resistance? But it's not that surprising to you that it's at resistance, is it? I mean, just looking at the weekly Bollinger Band, it's not that surprising that it's right like a little bit outside of the weekly Bollinger Band. That's not surprising, right? On the monthly, is it surprising that it's at resistance on the fact that it's like a little bit above the upper Bollinger Band here? No, it's not surprising. Should you sell at where it closed yesterday? I don't know. I'm not selling. The reason why I'm not selling is because I believe in the long term of Palantir. It could totally come back down. I don't think it's going to go down that further. I can totally see coming back down and potentially closing the gap. I don't think all gaps have to close, because if you ask me, like if this is one of those like transformative companies like Tesla, this is a weekly chart. The gap that everybody thought was going to close around like 60, or sorry, around like 80 was not closed. The gap that was down here around 60 was not closed. The gap that's down to like 30 something, that was not closed, right? So do I think all gaps had to close? No, right? But I can totally see Palantir potentially come back down and closing the gap at where it's going to be around 31.5, somewhere around there. And I see that happening. Is it going to? I don't know. Everybody's looking for it, so I'm not sure whether or not it's going to do that. And actually, a lot of people are looking for it to go down to like 27, 28 to add. So that's also a part of the reason why I'm not sure whether or not it's going to go back down. I did a little bit of a trying session with like the tracker and with the Great Matsby on last Tuesday. I kind of share with them my thoughts. Like it could go down from, even if it goes down to like 27, 28, 25, I don't care. I'll just be adding more at that point, because at this point I worried that the stock has more like escape velocity. And it's kind of crazy me to say right at resistance, but I just worried about more like that I might miss out on like a very, very big impulse up, because irrationality can happen for a very long time, right? Even though it's kind of above the upper Bollinger Band over here. I'll just show you what I mean. And I show this chart too the other day too. If you look at like how Bitcoin is behaving, and if you just pull out the Bollinger Band here, I see a lot of like similarities between where Palantir is at right now compared to like the bull market from 2015 to 2018. I see some similarities of this like kind of like escape velocity that might go up a lot higher than people might expect, kind of thing. Like I think that if you kind of look and see, like you see what I mean by that. These basically you have like a consolidation zone over here. You have a little bit of consolidation zone over here. You have a little bit of a breakout trying to push the Bollinger Band up, right? And you have a little bit of sideways because you just can't be that, that outside the upper Bollinger Band. Same thing happened here for Bitcoin. And you have these candles that are like pushing to upper Bollinger Band to try to expand up a Bollinger Band to go up a lot higher, right? I can totally see like where we are right now, maybe where we're at like in December 2016 for Bitcoin. I can totally see that. And that means that if irrationality happens and go a lot higher, Do I think it's going to happen? I think if that happens, you're talking about taking years of gain within the next like 18 months. If it happens that way, you're taking years of gain over the next 18 months. And that's not healthy. It wasn't healthy for Bitcoin. Bitcoin went sideways for like a few years after that. So it wouldn't be healthy if Palantir does that. But I'm worried about the potential of missing that move. If you're looking over here, even for like this crazy move up, you still have like a red candle over here, right? It still came back down and back test close to like the bottom of the candle over here. So I can totally see it doing that. I can totally see it coming back to like $30, closed at weekly yet. I can totally see Palantir doing that. But does it have to? No, it doesn't, right? Those are kind of my thought for Palantir. Originally, where do I think should happen? What I think should happen with Palantir, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. I might be a little bit too bearish. I might be a little bit too bullish, right? But what I think should happen is if I do the magnet here, if I do a Fibonacci from here to down here, what I think should happen is this. I think that price, and this is a log scale here. Let me change to linear. I think that price over the next 3 to 5 years, because of fundamentals, because of the growth rates that it has, I'm just kind of calculating like the annual, growth return, things like that, and also looking at the technicals. I think that in the next like 3 to 4 years, you just should be talking about like maybe around 2027, 2028, somewhere around there. The fair value may be somewhere up around like the 2.618, maybe like around $110, right? That's also where the there's a lot of confluence here on the GAN here too, and I can totally see kind of hitting like some of the arcs up here too, right? That's kind of where I would envision it going. Maybe it takes like 3 or 4 years for it to happen. It could potentially just end up pushing up like that, and it might end up just getting rejected up a lot higher and just go down. Like I don't know what it's going to do. But it looks like it wants to go up higher. It is at resistance, so I'm not buying anymore, but I'm also not selling. I have the luxury to be able to do that because I bought lower. And right now I don't have to worry about that anymore because I worry about something like this might happen. And I'm going to be stuck in a dilemma whether or not to sell at resistance or just like ride it up because I really don't know what's going to happen, to be completely honest with you. Like, look at how parabolic this is. I really don't know what's going to happen. If you want to exercise caution and take profits, I get it. I totally get it. Like, there's nothing not to get. And 30 is going to be a pretty good support zone. 28 is going to be a pretty good support zone. Like, just looking at the like Ichimoku, like, yeah, you're going to have some pretty strong support down here in 28. You're going to have some pretty good support like at the bottom of the arc. You're going to have some pretty good support at the support band right around the area, around 27. There's just so much support, right? I can even pull up the like Supaichi here, and you're going to get some additional support down here right around 31, right around like 29. You have so many support down here that I just think that if it ever gets down there, it's going to get all gobbled all up. And I'm not sure how, I don't know how low it's going to go. I'm not selling. That's kind of silly thing to do, right? Resistance, but this is a longer term hold for me for Palantir. So we'd love to see. So I'm going to get to V because she's one of my favorite beings in the whole wide world. Because her comments on my expose just getting more and more bizarre by the day. I'm loving it. Okay. Right off the bat, lower low, bearish market structure. I don't know what to make of it. Let's experiment here. I'm gonna be the great Masby here, and I'm gonna play around with the GAN here for a little bit, right? Let's see. That's the bottom, and I'm just gonna drag. I'm gonna have to choose a period here. I wanted to do like 720 for this one, just give me a little bit of a longer time horizon. So 720, and then the ratio. I don't know. Let's make the ratio 1, shall we? And then let's see what we see. If I don't get good market symmetry, then I'll fix it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna fix it. Let's do like maybe 0.5. Would that give me? No. Let's do 2. Let's do 2. That gives me better market symmetry. That gives me better market symmetry. You know, if you look at it this way, I guess I guess it has support, but like I just yeah, I mean, it looks like this kind of break about the arc here, back test, trying to break about this arc over here, failed to do so, came back down, found support down here, and it did the same thing, right? It challenged the arc up here again, failed to hold, just broke down, kept on pushing about the arc. It just looks really weak. If this line here breaks down around like 150s, it could go down here to like 140s in a hurry. But it's a support. So if you're really bullish about the fundamental of like Boeing, which I mean, I think like if Jim Cramer is still bullish on it, then I say run, right? But if you're still bullish on fundamentals of Boeing, you really want to get into Boeing, then I guess that's a good spot to enter as any, knowing that you have some downside risk here around like the 140s, right? You still have a lot of resistance up here to 170s. You know, I don't know how far up it's going to go. It looks like, you know, if it gets stuck in a range like that, this is a descending triangle and that's bearish, right? So, yeah, that's Boeing for you. Let me get rid of the GAN here. I know like I'm like GAN-philic right now, but just kind of zooming out here, do my usual 20-month. Yeah, it's curling down, bullish band expanding, maybe some potential room for it to go down further. Man, I hate to be bearish on stocks, but like this doesn't look great. You know, it got rejected here about a monthly Ichimoku cloud. Yeah, I don't know. On the weekly, you have a little bit of a katana here, but it's pointing down. You know, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to be bullish about BA, unfortunately. Going back to ASTS, you guys want me to talk about this, and I did talk about it. I'm bearish on it. I hate to be bearish, but it's just way outside upper Bollinger Band. It's got a tweezer top. But what I mean by bearish, like I don't mean this like all the way down to like $1. What I mean by bearish is like you might, even if you have some bullish continuation on this, you're probably going to end up having some price of correction through price or through time, just because of how parabolic this is. I know like there are a lot of bullish narratives that has come out from this, but you also have to consider like price that went from like $2 all the way to like 40, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to end up taking profits, especially if the price actually end up becoming weaker and weaker. Like there are going to be a lot of people end up trying to take profits. You also have a lot of support levels that are really down low below, right? Like you're talking about the Bollinger support band all the way down to maybe like 17. It may or may not hold if it ends up going back testing it. You're talking about the Ichimoku. On the weekly, you're finding some support over here, right? On the monthly, ooh, katana. It could go up higher over time. It could go getting higher over time. I can see that. But the Tengen and Kitchen is down here like 20, right? So that's like 30-something% drop potentially. Yeah. Man, I don't know what to do with a chart like this. I don't know what to do with a chart like this. I know I won't buy it. I'll say this, okay? I'll say this. Look at the lower Bollinger Band here on the monthly. If this thing starts to curl up, run. If the lower Bollinger Band here on the monthly starts to flatten and curl up, maybe start to consider like, you know, deleveraging or something. I mean, I don't know. I would say that. It doesn't, if the Bollinger Band ends up crawling up, it doesn't mean that that's the top. But if you want to be a little bit riskier, you can wait for a Bollinger Band to get from the negatives to the positives. And that might be a good area to exit. I do think that looking at the Bollinger Band here on the monthly, it might end up having some bullish continuation. I do think that looking at the Ichimoku on the monthly here, because of the katana, because this fusion of like the blue and the red line, it might have some bullish continuation. The trend is starting to exhaust. It might make another leg up, but watch for the lower Bollinger Band on the monthly. That's all I'm going to say. NEO, because it's got some really bullish price action for the week, bullish engulfing candle. What do I think about NEO? I think last week I might have mentioned, I think NEO is a good short-term trade, but not a good long-term hold, because it's way underneath the negative sloping 20-month moving average. And the price is like down here around like the $4. I was like, yeah, I'm not buying this for long term. I can totally see it going like makes like a crazy like 50 or 60 or something, 70% move though. I can totally see that happening. You can also see that I think on like a lower time frame here too, on the weekly, the 20 is kind of crawling up. You might have a little bit of a, super crazy bullish move here on the short term, but you're going to end up hitting like some long-term technicals. You're going to end up getting rejected until proven otherwise, right? I can see that happening. I can see NEO being like more bullish on the short term. I can see that, you might end up getting rejected here at the cloud around $6, right? Like you did over here, you're hitting resistance up here pretty soon. You break through the cloud, get inside the cloud. I would say like $10 is going to be pretty strong resistance, but $5 to $10, that's like an 80% gain. Like that's pretty good, Is it going to do that though? I don't know. Look at how thick the cloud is up here, right? Like it got rejected over here. Who's to say that it won't get rejected over here, right? It's getting close to resistance. I like the fact that it's reclaiming the Tenkan Kijun over here. That's nice, right? But it's stuck in a range underneath strong resistance. On the monthly, another reason why I don't know if I want to get into it for long term, same thing, right? On the weekly, you see like a strong cloud resistance up here around 6.2, 6.3. On the monthly, you're seeing the same thing. You're getting some resistance. If this thing would ever load, if this thing would negative sloping Tenkan up here around 6.3. So you're underneath resistance. A lot of this move probably has already been made, and I would be a little bit more cautious underneath resistance. But again, I could be wrong. I could flip the Tenkan from resistance to support and then end up going up to like 10, $13, and that'd be a huge move. But it's going to get rejected there until proven otherwise, because the long-term technicals are still not favorable. I can totally see it going up to like maybe like $6, 6.3, somewhere around over the next couple of months, and maybe even challenge the negative sloping 20 over here. I can totally see that, but look at how it got rejected over here. So be cautious with NEO. That's all I gotta say. But if you want to go into a trade, feel free to do that. We're gonna make it. Yeah, we're gonna make it 20 WGMI. This is an ETF for the Bitcoin miners. Very nice. Trees are bottom, rising 20. Overall, the sector actually looks pretty decent. There's some selected stocks that have been very painful, but overall, the sector looks pretty decent. This just looks like it's a little bit of breakout of this like cup and handle kind of look, a little bit of back test here. That's what it looks like, right? On the Ichimoku is stuck in between like the Tenkan and Kijun, but it's finding support here at the Kijun. There's nothing bearish about this chart. I like the miners overall. There's nothing really too bearish about this chart. It tells you that Bitcoin might just be, doing some consolidation. It might end up running soon. So we'll see. I'm just going to kind of leave it as that. One more thing to look at is to look at the Ichimoku here on a weekly. You can see how it's nicely using that as support. It's still underneath resistance up here, but it's got some pretty nice support, like just kind of bouncy ball on the Ichimoku cloud, just been going up, with the Ichimoku cloud. Cloud's green, looks pretty nice. Nothing else to say about that. Somebody asked about Doge, and I'm probably going to get towards the end of my live stream here. I think I kind of talked nonstop for close to like an hour and a half. Not the Doge market cap. Nobody cares about the market cap. Come on. Let's see. Do I have I thought I draw again for Doge. Did I draw again for Doge? I did. I did draw again for Doge. All right. Turn off the Ichimoku here. I'll go back to Ichimoku here in a little bit. Okay. I'll do that one little games, and I'll probably end up signing off. But Doge first. Do I think Doge is ready to run? I mean, maybe. So this is how I did the log scale again. Let's see the numbers that I have over here. I can't even drag it over. Okay. 1440 and 2, right? Those are the numbers that I use. And I use this breakout over here as the origin point of my on my Gann square. And you can see how nicely that this market symmetry is. Like, I can't make this stuff up. Like, it probably took me maybe like half a minute to do this. I don't want to redo it again because I already did it. Let me take a sip of water here. Yeah, severely underperforming, but that's what happens every cycle. It severely underperforms everything else, especially Bitcoin, until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it like goes up in a hurry. Let me just put kind of show you like this chart here. What I mean by that, like it basically looks like it's following market symmetry almost perfectly. You know, like horizontal lines, curves, everything means something, right? Everything means something. And so far, you've just been going down on this arc. I think we're really like at the bottom. I don't know whether or not it's going to be like a V-shaped kind of thing, but I do think that whenever it recovers, it might make a little bit like a U kind of thing, kind of like it did over here. You know, getting a little bit like people a little bit frustrated. Maybe while like Bitcoin goes a lot higher, you know, Doge is still going to make a U and getting rejected here, like around 18 cents or something like that. I can totally see that. But I just cannot be bearish on this market structure. Like, just look at it. I'm not making this up. I can see it hitting the arc up here. Some people can see potentially hitting like the horizontal line up here is just around like 4.5, 4.6. I can see that, but that's kind of like my target for Doge if it's able to break above the horizontal here, which it hasn't been able to, right? But I've been buying. I've been buying every week. That's kind of what I'm looking at. 2-week chart, turn off GAN, Ichimoku, very nicely bottomed. This cycle is a little bit different from last cycle. Last cycle, the cloud was like resistance, and when it breaks, it just went crazy. This cycle, the bottom of the cloud served as pretty nice support. So I don't think we're going to end up having like this crazy parabolic move. I think we're going to end up like getting back to the top of the cloud here around 18 cents or something like that, or around like 13 cents, something like that. Probably has some resistance up here, break above, back test the cloud, and then go up higher. And that could take maybe like a couple months, you know. Just look at like, yeah, if you want to like do a long-term hold, you should not be in Doge, right? Because if you are in long-term hold, this is why people do Bitcoin, because over time, Dogecoin has severely underperformed Bitcoin, right? This is Doge over Bitcoin. And why would you want to just hold Doge long-term, right? With that said, Doge over Bitcoin is also potentially double bottoming, right? This looks a little bit like an Adam and Eve kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. It got rejected over here too back in like April. It got rejected here, the horizontal zone here on these ratio charts. So yeah, if you buy Doge, you are, if you're holding Doge, most of the time you're going to end up underperforming Bitcoin. But sometimes all you need, if you end up buying down here, all you need is like sell the wick over here, and you can make some pretty life-changing gains. So yeah, that's Doge. Let's see. One more. You're talking about the micro cap, and I think I'm going to make that the end of my day here. What was the ticker again? I can't find it again. MCRB. I have no idea what that is. It's Series Therapeutics. Is that right? Right off the bat, I'm just gonna be like lazy. I'm gonna put like a lot of indicators, just kind of let you know what I'm thinking. Bearish, 20-month moving average going down. Short term, you could end up, you know, making like 50%, 70%, where you're probably gonna end up getting rejected. If this is a trade for you, be careful of the downward sloping negative 20. It's no joke, right? If it's negative sloping, it's no joke. Look at how it got rejected over here, right? I mean, like, maybe you get lucky and you might end up just having like this green candle just push up off a negative sloping one, and you might end up making a big giant move like that. But that's like more, you know, luck, right? Like, you don't want to count on something like that happening. Yeah, so it looks like it's forming like nice rounded bottom, but it could go up higher. You go up to like the 1.7 range or something like that, but it's probably going to get rejected. That's what I'm seeing here. Same thing with the Ichimoku. Right now, you are at resistance. You got rejected over here, right? I would like to see it maybe at least turning Tenkin from resistance to support. Right now, it's 1.3. See you turn that from resistance to support. That might be a safer area to buy. But again, like I would still be worried that it might get rejected here, you know, by negative sloping 20-month moving average. So a little bit more cautious when it comes to this stock here. On the lower time frame, you're also underneath resistance, right? You're underneath a very thick cloud here on a weekly. You're also underneath the Tenkan Kijun over here, so be careful. That's all I gotta say. Does it look like it's like trying to form a base? Yeah. Is there a guarantee? No. It can make a lower leg down down further. It's possible. So just be careful. I don't like to be like bearish, but I don't see enough charts here to make me feel more conviction about this at this point. So, guys, It's been a fun hour and a half. I have not had a chance to sip on my wine. I think I got to everybody's requests. I think I did. Thank you all for joining. And you guys have a good Saturday evening or Sunday morning, wherever you're from. You guys take care. Okay. Thanks for joining. Bye.